From the very start of its existence, the world of Arda was shaped and influenced by powerful spirits, such as the Valar and their servants, the Maiar. Some of these Maiar spirits, such as Sauron, Gandalf and Melian, would actually play a crucial role in the history and events of Arda, and one of the greatest of these spirits was called Eonwe. Hey guys, it's Carl here, and in today's episode we'll be unraveling the history of Eonwe, the Maiar. So before the world of Arda was created, Eonwe was one of the Ainur spirits that took part in the music of the Ainur, and through this music, the universe took shape and form. Now the greatest of these spirits were the 15 Valar, and their numbers included two brothers that would go down very different paths. One of them was Manwë, the king of the Valar, and he was renowned for his wisdom, while the other was Melkor, and he was the most powerful Ainur, though his drive for more power and dominion would corrupt his spirit and turn him evil, and he would later be known as Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. Morgoth would make it his personal mission to destroy and corrupt all of the works of the Valar, and by the end of the First Age, things looked extremely desperate for the Free People, and it seemed almost inevitable that unless the Valar came to their aid, Morgoth would soon overwhelm them. And so a hero of men called Eärendil chose to travel to Aman and beg the Valar for help, and after he landed upon its shores, he was greeted by Eonwe, who had come straight from Valimar to summon him before the Council of the Valar. This was going to be a huge turning point in the history of Arda, for Eärendil begged the Valar to forgive the Noldor Elves and to save the Free People from the evils of Morgoth, and the Valar were moved by his words, and they felt that the time was ripe to launch an attack upon the forces of Morgoth. Now the Valar needed a great army to be able to challenge Morgoth, which included the elves, Maiar spirits, and even Tulkas the Vala, and Eonwe was given command of this force. It's quite interesting that he was given this role. Perhaps it was because Eonwe was said to be the greatest warrior in Arda, not in terms of strength, but in his skill in armed combat. And so it's quite plausible that this knowledge made him the ideal candidate to lead an army and to organize its strategy and logistics. Morgoth would never have imagined that the Valar would dare to attack him in open combat, for by now his pride had grown so great that he felt he was invincible. He would soon realize just how wrong he was, for his illusion of strength was shattered when he heard the sound of the trumpets of Eonwe filling up the sky as a challenge to his evil rule, when the armies of the West finally landed upon the shores of Middle-earth. And this was the start of the terrible war known as the War of Wrath. Thanks to Eonwe's guidance and command, the forces of the West managed to overcome Morgoth's army, slaying his mighty Balrogs, his countless legions of orcs, and even his fell dragons, until finally they managed to breach his great fortress of Angband. The realization of his imminent defeat soon dawned on Morgoth, and his spirit was broken. He tried to flee in terror into the deepest pits of Angband, hoping to beg for peace and pardon or to escape judgment, though he would find no mercy. His feet were sliced off, and he was thrown to the ground, and the army of the Valar tied him up in the chains of Anganor. Morgoth was finally defeated, and Eonwe approached his crown and took the two Silmarils from it. He would guard them until their fate was decided, and since he was the Herald of Manwe, he summoned all of the elves of Beleriand to leave Middle-earth and to travel to the Undying Lands. Many of the elves would answer this call, though the last two sons of Fëanor, called Maithras and Maglor, refused, for they had sworn an oath to recover their father's Silmarils, and they refused to back down, even if it meant that they must challenge the entire host of the Valar. At first they tried to resolve it diplomatically, for they sent a message to Eonwe asking him to return their father's jewels, though Eonwe refused their request, and he said that they had lost all of the rights to the work of their father, for in their madness to fulfill this oath, they had committed many atrocious and terrible deeds, and they had slaughtered many innocent lives. And so Eonwe decided that the light of the Silmarils would return to the west, to the place of their birth, and that if the sons of Fëanor wanted the Silmarils, they would have to travel to Valinor and face the judgment of the Valar for their actions, for the Silmarils would only be given to them if the Valar decided so. Now even though Maglor was ready to submit, Maithras convinced his brother that they had no choice but to try and take the Silmarils by force, for after all, they had sworn an oath by calling upon the LOTR, and he believed that not even the Valar could release them from it. The brothers decided to disguise themselves, and one night they crept into the camp of Eonwe, where they slew the guards that stood watch over the Silmarils, and they stole these gems. The entire camp was raised in alarm, and the sons of Fëanor were surrounded, as they raised their weapons, preparing to die in a final desperate stand. Yet instead of that, Eonwe chose to show them mercy, and he told his men to allow the sons of Fëanor to flee with the Silmarils. It might seem like they would go unpunished for their evil deeds, though Maedhros and Maglor would soon realize that Eonwe was right, and that the Silmarils no longer belonged to them. For after all their evil actions, they could barely even hold the Silmarils any longer, for the gems would burn their hand in unbearable pain, and so they cast them aside, in a fiery pit and into the Great Sea. Now even though Morgoth was overthrown, some of his servants still remained, such as Sauron, and he was desperate to escape punishment. Sauron would put on a fair form, and he submitted to Eonwe, and he renounced all of the evil deeds that he had committed for his master. Eonwe didn't have the power to forgive and pardon the Maiar spirit, since they were both from the same order, and so he commanded Sauron to return to Aman, where he would be judged by Manwë. This proposal scared Sauron, for he was ashamed, and he didn't want to face the Valar or risk punishment, and he chose to hide in Middle-earth after Eonwe had left the lands. Now even during the peak of Morgoth's strength and reign, there were still some men that resisted his evil and fought against him, and these were the three houses of the Edain. The Valar decided to reward these men, and they sent Eonwe to share his knowledge and wisdom with them, and through his teachings, the minds of these men were uplifted. In some of Tolkien's notes, he mentions that even though Morgoth was defeated and imprisoned, he would one day escape at the end of the world in an apocalyptic battle known as Dagor Dagorath. During this battle, Tulkas would fight with Morgoth, with Eonwe on his right and Turin on his left. And according to this prophecy, Turin would finally slay Morgoth at the end of this battle. Before ending this video, I'd like to point out that in some of the early drafts of the Silmarillion, Eonwe was actually called Fionwe, and he was the son of Manwë. Back then, Tolkien had planned to give the Valar children, and this is why in these early drafts, Eonwe had a much bigger role, and he would actually be the one that would defeat Morgoth in the War of Wrath. This concept of the Valar having children was later abandoned by Tolkien, and since there weren't many notes on the War of Wrath, Christopher Tolkien, his son, decided to change Eonwe's role in this battle, for he doubted that his father would have given him such an important role in the story in defeating Morgoth, though at times Christopher has expressed that he wasn't sure if this was the right decision. Anyway guys, this wraps up today's video, and I hope you enjoyed it. What do you think of Eonwe's character? Is he one of your favorite Maiar? And if not, who do you prefer? And do you agree with Christopher Tolkien's changes? Or would you have liked to see Eonwe defeat Morgoth in battle? As always, I'd like to give a quick shout out to all my patrons that choose to support this channel. Your help and support make this channel possible, and I really appreciate it. Particularly my Valar-Tier Patrons, Michelangelo and T-Gorman, and also my Wizard-Tier Patrons, James Todgel, Andrew Bomer, Mike Feeney, Roland Myrvold, and Tamar Baines. If you like the work that we do on this channel and want to support us, check out our Patreon page in the video description, where you can unlock some really cool perks. You can also support us by checking out our store and by following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and joining our Discord server. All of these links can be found in the video description. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to join our fellowship today. Until next time friends, when we'll once again explore the magical world and lore of Middle-earth.